Yep.
I think as long as our North Compass just needs to be to keep having fun, because I think that's like, I genuinely love my buddies that I do that with, and I hope they never hear that. But we have
I'm
such
gonna
a good
clip
time.
that. There's a moment when a job stops being just a job and turns into the place that you feel most alive. For Daniel Stanphill, that moment happened in front of a line of circuit boards and a team that trusted him to figure things out. He did not plan on building a career in electronics. He didn't even know that half the components on a board did what they did when he started. But he kept showing up. Curiosity took over. Work became meaningful. And now he spends his time helping engineers solve problems, helping customers build better products, and hosting a podcast that pulls more people into the world that grabbed him. This is what it sounds like when someone falls in love with manufacturing and decides to stay. Hello and welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. Today, we've got an awesome episode, one that's been in the works for quite some time. We've got Daniel Stanphill with us today. I've been lucky enough to meet him in person a couple of times, so I always love when I have somebody on that I've met in person, that I've spent time with. It makes these conversations flow a lot easier. For those of you who are new, welcome to the show. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming back. If you like this show, please rate and review wherever you're watching or listening to this show. It means a lot to me. It's not for my ego. It's to help us get in front of more of the people who are out there. So drop a rating and a review wherever you're listening. Without further ado, Daniel Stanphill, welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today, man?
Thanks, Jim. Honestly, it's a privilege to be here. You mentioned we've run into each other a couple times. First time was at IMTS, and I walked up to you and said, "What an honor to meet you." So it's a long time in the works for sure. I'm happy to be a guest on your show.
I appreciate that, man. And it's still so wild to me. You may have been one of the first that came up and was like, "Hey, it's an honor to meet you." And it's wild to me that kind of stuff happens. And I got to see you in action this last fall in Rosemont at the show that we it was a co-located
the assembly.
show. Yeah.
The assembly, and I was on the Surface Mount Technology Association.
That's right. I couldn't remember what the other association, Surface Mount Association.
No
I totally
worries.
forgot about it.
I got their back. No worries.
Daniel, so I have a couple of icebreakers that start every show.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is, if your life were a movie, what genre would it be? Who would play you? And what's the opening scene?
Such a fun question. It would definitely have to be drama. Younger, past years, I'd say comedy. Maybe for somebody from the outside watching it, could still be a comedy. For me, drama. Who would play me? I don't know. I once had it's definitely not true anymore, but I once had a classmate in high school say that if I was walking from the other side of the campus, and if they just kind of squinched their fingers together like that and looked through the distance, that I looked like Heath Ledger. So he's not alive anymore, but I don't know how to give you a better answer.
No, I like that, man. I like that. Heath Ledger was one of those actors that we lost too early. He was great. He was multifaceted. He could literally do anything. And from what I know about you, I think that's pretty spot on. He doesn't have to look like you. He just has to be able to represent you. I had long hair
at the time too. It was down on my shoulders.
All right.
Nobody here in this building would have any clue that ever happened.
Well, hopefully they will now. And what's the opening scene, man?
Right, the opening scene. Now it would probably be you're on a small acreage and the sun's coming up and you hear chickens crowing, let you know the day's started. You look outside and you see a bunch of snow falling, and your tractor that you need to use to clear the driveway is out of gas. That's what I'd say the opening scene is.
All right. That very drama filled opening scene. I like it. Very detailed too. I dig it, man. Well done. All right, Daniel. Next question. Still an icebreaker. Still fun. Just a little bit more serious. This is a manufacturing culture podcast. We got to talk about culture at some point, right? So, what does culture mean to you? Not like a dictionary definition, but your definition.
I think I don't remember where I saw it or heard it, but it certainly falls true for me. Culture, I think, is best described in the way you feel as the weekend ends and you've got to go back to work the next week. Like, are you dreading everything that comes, or are you kind of excited about what lies ahead? And I know I've certainly been on both sides of that fence and not feeling that sense of dread anymore, but being much more excited about everything that's coming up is a much better place to be, and probably a big part of the reason why I've stuck with manufacturing like this, because I just do truly love it.
And I think that's part of what drew you and I together. We have similar backgrounds. You came from a very different environment. So tell us about where you were before you got to manufacturing. What drew you in, and then what surprised you about the industry once you got here?
Yeah, like I think like a lot of the people in my position, they kind of stumbled into this world, fell into it accidentally. I was living an hour away from here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was working as a house painter. I worked at a company there. The first day I worked for that company, I didn't know how to hold a brush or what it was, how to do any of the things we needed to do. And 10 years later, almost to the day, I took over as the business owner, the operator owner of it, and I ran it for a few years. There were definitely parts of being a small business owner that I liked, but it got a lot more complicated when probably 4 months after I became a business owner, found out that we were pregnant with our first child. And so, you know, only a few months in as a new business owner, and now I've got this huge life change happening. And at the end of that year, when we had her, everything changed again because it was a really traumatic pregnancy. Well, delivery. The pregnancy was okay. The delivery, nothing went to plan. Both baby and mama made it out okay, thank God. But it was really rough and took me away from the business quite a bit. It was difficult. Tried rebounding, spent a couple more years doing it, had our second child, and that that delivery process made the first one seem like a cakewalk. And my wife ended up back in the hospital for a much longer extended stay. She had all kinds of health complications, and we basically for 6 weeks I didn't even know my business existed. And when something like that happens, it's pretty hard to get it all back up and going. And I had the work, I had the people, but my heart wasn't in it, that's for sure. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I just wanted to know that my family was okay. So about that time, my in-laws were moving from their acreage to in town here in Aurora where I work, and they just couldn't handle the 12 acres anymore. It's not farmed on or anything, but there's just always something that needs to be done for sure. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. So it made a tough decision because all my money was in the bit. What do I do?
Yeah.
But we had two little girls now, and every time that they had been out to my in-laws' property, it was like, it's just amazing watching them have fun out there in the country. In Lincoln, we lived in an apartment like 700 people. So anyway, long rambling here. But when I moved out here, I tried being just like a sole proprietor, just doing painting by myself. But it to try to keep my wife not working, just taking care of the kids at home by picking up a bedroom to paint, a bathroom here and there, like that wasn't going to pay the bills during the winter when I couldn't do exteriors anymore.
Sure.
So my father-in-law saw this job posting for this place. I looked it up online. I'm like, what do they even do? What's happening in that little like gray building on the edge of town? What's this, And I interviewed here for a different position than the one I started, but I just knew all I had to do was get my foot in the door. And I started on these machines behind me here, running this pick and place equipment. And I just never stopped asking questions. The guy that was programming the machines, anytime I walked by, I'd be like, what's going on here? How do you do this? What's that? And, like, hey, can next time you do one, is it cool? Can I sit with you and watch you do it? And I just always picked up anything I could. And we bought some new equipment. I took to it right away, learned it all, kind of helped bring in some new technology and processes to the place, even as I was learning it myself. That's been just one of the most fun things when you get in construction. And even though the houses are built different, every day kind of can start to feel exactly the same. I didn't even know how burnt out I was until I got out of it and found something I was passionate about.
Yeah.
And I've been here almost 5 years now, and I think I've had 6 different job titles. It doesn't matter what, like, I've got my hands in everything here. It's just love every part of it, and especially like traveling and stuff too, going out to shows like we met at. It's I've just totally immersed myself in the industry. You'd have to pry me out of it.
Yeah, I get it, man. And I really appreciate your vulnerability and your openness to share a really rough time in your life, and how that shaped your thought process as a business owner. I mean, there are so many people out there that will feel validated just simply by hearing your story, right? Because go ahead.
It's hard. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to share at times because, like, especially on LinkedIn, like, you see this culture of, it's just that all anyone wants to do is talk about success, right? And one of my greatest successes, in my opinion, was shutting my business down. So hard to do. And I struggle telling people about it because I feel like, what if somebody in that exact situation, all they need is just that little extra bit of perseverance, and they're like right about to make it to the thing they're trying to do. So I don't ever want to, like, I don't like telling a story that to the small business owner might feel like a discouraging thing, but at the same time, I do feel like it's important for people to know, like, if you feel locked into a situation, you aren't. When I started working here, I started working for a wage that was basically insulting to me. But when you're hat in hand begging almost, you just, and you've got a family and that's what you care about, that's what you're going to do. Um, so so the only way I even made it work was as soon as springtime came that first year, I'd work here 8 hours, then I'd get off work, go continue painting, and the people weren't living there at the time, then I'd work well into the night. If it was outside deal, I could only work till it got dark. But I mean, I spent a whole year working here and working another full-time gig on the side, basically trying to just make ends meet. And the roadmap to success wasn't here. Okay. Like, it wasn't clear and obvious. It wasn't I wasn't able to just, I mean, it took hard work the whole way through. Right. But just recognizing that my family needed to come first, and just making that leap was so hard to go to a full-time gig and give up my business and all that. But for me and my family, it was the right move. And so I don't know. I struggle sharing it because I don't want it to come across as that last bit of bad news to somebody who's trying to figure out how they're, like, they hear this and they're like, yeah, I should give it up. Like, that's.
Well, and for those people who are listening right now, Daniel's path and story is his own. That's your journey, right? You
Yeah,
did what
yeah,
you had to do for you. And I think that in this social media culture, we tend to benchmark ourselves and make decisions for ourselves based on what other people view as success, right? And I think that's a massive mistake. I look at LinkedIn and the amount of AI slop that's out there
yeah,
right now,
yeah.
the amount of just garbage that's out there. And
Hmm.
to have somebody who's vulnerable and open and authentic and genuinely willing to share that journey, that story, I think is very powerful, man. And I encourage people not to benchmark themselves against anybody else when it comes to personal decisions that they make, right? If you want to benchmark yourself against the industry for a business you own or for KPIs or things of that nature, fine, great, go for it, right?
Hmm.
But when you're talking about what your personal definition of success is, you can't necessarily say, well, Daniel's journey was this and it didn't work for him. Man, I'm struggling too. I might as well just hang it up, right? That's not that person's story. They need to figure out what's best for them. And it tells me a lot about who you are as a human being to even think about that, right? Because in this world of social media where people will take a picture of what they're having for dinner and then write what they learned about B2B sales in a post using AI, like you just even thinking about that is tells me a lot about who you are, man. And again, I think this is why we were drawn together is you're a very empathetic, authentic human. And so again, I appreciate you sharing all of that. When one of the things you first said to me when we met at IMTS that I'll never forget is you talked about how much you love going to work. That you literally just love what you do. And
Hmm.
was there a moment that you can remember that feeling for the first time?
Man, I mean, it was right away. Like these machines, just watching them place tens of thousands of components an hour onto a circuit board. Like there's something about if you like this kind of stuff, you walk into a facility like this, and you are basically a part of a how it's made episode. Like you get to be in the back inner workings of it. So like the cool thing about doing this is we build products that go in other products. So there's all this cool technology being used to assemble the boards and make it happen. And then those boards go into other devices or finished goods that do other, cool, amazing things that we can sometimes talk about and sometimes can't. That's kind of probably one of the hardest things about our industry or like the CNC industry is you get to work on all these cool parts, but the customers don't always allow you to talk about them or share.
Yeah.
So a lot of the coolest stuff nobody ever gets to see or hear about. But the stuff we are allowed to talk about, I do as much as I can because
Yeah,
I like it.
that's awesome. So I mean, we've talked about your past and what got you to where you are. Is there a person that in your transition from industry to industry helped you in your journey in the manufacturing world?
I mean, so many professionally, that's where LinkedIn really changed my life too. Cause, um, I, it's just accelerated my learning and knowledge so much by being able to connect with people who have done this for 30 and 40 years. And even there, I'm probably one of the biggest people that I would say has made an impact in my development. They just like our customers. That person doesn't want me to share their. One of my biggest mentors doesn't want credit for it. Maybe it's a reflection on me. I don't know, but that that there's just so many people. One person who I'll say has really been hugely instrumental is Mike Conrad. He has his own Liability Matters. I'll give him a little plug if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But he's so cool. Like he runs another company, a business, in the same um, electronic space, and he's one of these people who will introduce you to all the people that you need to know. And so it's not even just like it's not even just all the knowledge he has, the network that he has helped me to be a part of, because I just wouldn't be where I am in my career without all the help from all these people that I've met virtually, and now most of them in person too, thankfully. But yeah, there's so many industry veterans. Like I would just start rambling off names, and then leave somebody out too. It's tough.
No, I appreciate that. And I mean, for all that's wrong with LinkedIn, it's amazing how powerful of a tool that it really is. I mean, I love that I'm going to Salt Lake next week, and I love that I can go on LinkedIn and reach out to people and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. My flight landed earlier than my meeting. I'd love to come by and tour your shop, or
Sure.
grab a cup of coffee." It's a powerful networking tool, and I agree wholeheartedly. Networking in general, but LinkedIn specifically, has 100% changed the trajectory of my career. Now it's just curating it so I don't see all the slop that's out there.
Yeah, yeah. That's the biggest work involved now. I'm being on that platform. It's trying to wade through that.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and I've just started, like, if I think I give somebody like 3 chances, but if I see 3 overly like AI generated posts that bring zero value to me, I'm like, all right, see you later. I'm done. And
Yeah.
I'll hide them. I don't unconnect with people, but I'll hide them, or I'll click on the see less of this content type of
Yeah.
stuff. And then when I do find somebody's post that I like and I enjoy, I spend time on it to help my algorithm like catch back up to where I want to see things, right? So anyway, so Daniel, for somebody who's never seen, you talked about it's a giant episode of how it's made. For somebody who's never seen how a PCB go from concept to that finished board, walk us through a typical product or a typical project at Aurora Boardworks.
Sure. Typically, somebody's going to come to us either um, either they already have a product that they're getting made and they're just looking to get a new supplier, or they've never made it before and they're trying to figure out how to take this concept from that to reality. And so either way, when the situation's right, we get involved. And if it's regardless of that, just say the product has made it to our facility. We've helped them get their design done if that's what they need, or if they already had a finished design, they've chosen us as their supplier. So now it comes here. I mean, how much do you want to know? You want to know what these machines do?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I mean, I've been seeing those lids raised behind you, man,
Right.
and it's pretty freaking cool.
Okay, so a board will come in and we'll mark it. We'll use a laser marker and we'll put like a date code or a serial number or something if traceability is important. Can do QR codes, logos, whatever. And then it'll get kitted up. All the different components will come in from the bill of materials, get all the components in, get it kitted up for these machines behind me. And then you get a stencil. So I don't know, you look like a guy who probably made t-shirts for himself back in college or whatever, right? So everyone probably knows how a stencil works. But we put solder paste in a like peanut butter type of viscosity onto the stencil. Squeegees come down. You have apertures or openings in the stencil that match the pad layout on your board. Okay. So when the stencil comes across, solder paste is deposited on the pads, and then the pasted board will go into that machine over my shoulder right there. And all the different components come in these reels, like reels of tape, and the machine will peel the plastic cover tape back and advance it as a head comes over and picks up a component. It advances, the head rotates, it picks up another component, and it just keeps feeding it as the head picks up. Ours has 12 nozzles on one head and 8 on the other. Wow. Another one that's 12 and 12. So it just picks them up in like Gatling gun style, just puts them all on the board, comes back, picks them all up, puts them on the board, and it'll do that tens of thousands of components per hour until it's done. Then it moves on to the next machine, which is a reflow oven, and that brings all the solder paste up to its liquidous melting point. And then when it cools, you have these welded joints, basically. All of your components are now soldered onto the board. So it's kind of cool because regardless of how many hundreds or thousands of components might be going on in assembly, they all get soldered in the same amount of time, however fast your belt speed moving through that reflow oven is. If you have 1,000 components on that board, they all turn liquidous at about the same time, and 30 seconds later, they all solidify, and you've got everything soldered all at once. So for anyone who's ever like done prototype work or hand soldered a board component by component, they can appreciate how marvelous that is. But it comes out with all the components put on it, and then it goes through what's called the AOI, which is automated optical inspection, and it just takes images all across the board and compares it to a golden board that you programmed. And if the component's in the wrong direction, if the solder joint quality is bad, any foreign debris, anything you're looking for, you flag it there. If there was anything wrong with it, it would go over to our technicians to rework it if applicable. Then we have other machines that do the through-hole soldering, and one of them's called a selective solder. So that's pretty cool, because if you have a complex board that has both surface mount components that were done over here and the through-hole components where the leads go all the way through and get soldered on the other side, you can do those boards on this machine that selectively. It's on its own independent gantry. It comes and sprays, this drop jet comes and sprays flux precisely in the locations where you're going to solder. That flux works to tin the lead and clean it and remove any oxidation. And then you program the solder nozzle comes up underneath it and then comes up to the height that you programmed it. And if it's like a long connector, it might drag all the way along it, but then drop down to avoid other components and move to the next spot, go back up and solder again. And so you just program it around all the components that you can't touch and get all the other components done. And then we also have some other processes of conformal coating, very similar, only that's on the top where you program it to come. It dispenses this what looks to be a clear coating, but it has these UV tracers in it. So if you look at it under a black light, you can easily see what areas have been coated and what haven't. We got a few other things, but that's pretty much it.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. I'm going to have to come out and see Aurora Boardworks,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the biggest issues facing the circuit board landscape right now? I mean, I know a lot about metal fab. I learn every day about all sorts of industries. What's going on in circuit board world?
I mean, overseas competition with trying to get things back in the United States, and especially like volume production. But basically, if you reach a certain level of volume, it's just not happening here for the most part. So, I mean, there's going to be exceptions where it might be ITAR requirements where it literally can't leave the United States. But if anything's running at serial production, it's not happening here. And we're trying to figure out how to get some of that back, because as a small shop, it's just most places are gonna be like this, similar to this, where it's high mix, low volume.
Yeah.
And it's a tough place to live, man. You got to have everything dialed in to run efficiently. You got to get used to these, single minute exchange dies, these poka-yoke concepts, all the lean principles. You got to figure all that stuff out better than I have, admittedly, because you need all that really dialed in to be able to effectively move from product to product to product and keep doing it efficiently at good quality the whole time. All of that, because that's how we adapt and stay alive right now, is providing that service. But we're hoping that as we grow, we can get some bigger volume partners that make life a little easier. But I think that's pretty consistent across the board in the industry, is you're fighting the incredibly competitive pricing that's available overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I could go on a whole rant, but this show is about you, so I'm not going to. So what's a common misconception that people have about your vertical within manufacturing, the contract electronics manufacturing vertical?
Common misconception. I guess it just seems like everyone is going to assume it's easier than it is. There's so much that goes into getting a job like this right. It just in one of the any one of the processes I described, there's probably 1,000 things that could go wrong. I mean, to have all of it dialed in right, when people are used to consumer good pricing, right? So if you go to supermarket, some Target or Walmart, whatever, like it, everyone's looking for the cheapest price, and that is probably stumbling into, might be stumbling into that area of rant you might have been talking about. But that desire for cheap when you're looking to buy something, I mean, that's what's created this whole environment where it's hard to give people good products because the cost of doing so is too much. Like everyone here in America understands that you want to make a good wage for the job you do, right? Like you want to earn a good living, so you want to make a good wage, but then you go to buy any of the goods that you need that your neighbor is making, you don't want to pay a good price for it. You want to pay the cheapest price you can, right?
Yes.
You don't want to buy the stuff your neighbor's making. You want to buy the stuff that somebody overseas is making because that's what's best for your wallet. So like we all want to have our cake and eat it too. And until we kind of everyone just wakes up to the reality facing all of us, it's going to be a hard, like, sacrifices have to be made everywhere in the short term to improve things.
Yeah.
Like otherwise it's just a race to the bottom that nobody wins.
Yep. And see, this is perfect because I asked that question and you did the ranting for me. So thank you, Daniel. So talk to us a little bit about what the culture's like there. Again, I know, contract manufacturing on the metals side. I don't think it's probably too different, but share with us what the culture's like at Aurora Boardworks.
I mean, I don't know what it would be like anywhere else in this industry because this is the only place I've ever worked at within the industry, but I've certainly found it to be extremely empowering. It's a great place to work. Every single ounce of initiative that I've showed, they've supported. They've, uh, as you know, we talked about in the fall. You saw me on my own podcast. That they they absolutely support everything I do there without any. There's no formal agreement. There's no. I have to mention that. No, I never started out with any agreement with them at all, and yet they support it 100% and want to do anything they can to help me grow. They've paid for me to go get different certifications. That's this week. I just got a new certification,
What'd you get?
IPC J standard. So I'm
Awesome. Congratulations.
officially an electron. I've officially faked it till I made it. So they they this place, it's been great because they understand. They want people who put their family first. If something happens in the middle of the day and you need to run home, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
There's not somebody with a stopwatch waiting at the door for like when your break ended or stuff like that. But it's because they treat everyone like adults and expect you to do the thing that you're asked to do. I've never enjoyed micromanaging. Like if somebody is hovering over me, checking everything I'm doing constantly, that's not how I thrive. And this place, thankfully, has recognized that and been willing to give me just complete autonomy. They know properly motivated, like they don't need to do any, just let me go, and that's what they do. And I have got no interest going anywhere else. I've been batting away recruiters like flies. It's just like that. I love it here. And even if I wanted to, my wife's not moving anywhere. We live on the acreage that she grew up. When she was 4 years old, riding a horse bareback, it was right there.
I love that, man. I love that. So you mentioned the podcast. It's called the Decode Podcast, right?
Yep.
So how has starting a podcast, we talked a little bit about networking and community earlier. How has telling such deep conversations that you have on the Decode podcast, how has that shaped your view of community in manufacturing?
The podcast is a cheat code. It's been, it was a grassroots thing where we all put our own time and money and energy into it, still do. We When we go to these bigger trade shows and stuff where it requires travel and lodging and all that kind of stuff, now we've found ways to get sponsors for these events. But for now, all of our regularly released episodes are still, completely non-commercial and just done on our own free time, usually late in the evenings, because we all have families and jobs and kids. It's just so trying to make that work has been a struggle, but the work itself it's been incredible because now as it's grown, it's now given us an excuse to have access to people that, they wouldn't have known who we were otherwise. And that access has opened up so much. I mean, the number of CEOs and presidents and directors that we can now personally contact, and it doesn't even have to be, sometimes it's any work exchange in either direction or anything like that. A lot of times it's, hey, I'm struggling with it, have you ever seen this? And now I've got someone who's, I've got somebody who's with all the answers who's willing to talk with me, because now I have a little bit more credibility to my name with the podcast attached. So it's been yeah, like I say, a cheat code to be able to grow our network in that way, because it's, it started out where it's like, man, how do you figure out who to have on as a guest? Who's going to say yes? And and like everyone has said yes. It's been incredible. And I think our biggest appeal has been our authenticity and genuine interest in the people we're talking to. We don't get a script from them. We don't get, hey, could you talk about this or that? I mean, there's been a few people who have asked, could you mention this? And we might figure out a way to ask them a question that hasn't. But I mean, like 99% of it is just off the cuff, no preparation, just wherever the conversation leads us. And my two other co-hosts, Sean Kincaid and Elias Malthavon, they each own they're the presidents of their businesses, but they both were raised in it. So they started from the most, you talk about growing up in a business, that means you've done every job that exists within that business, and probably the worst ones for the longest times, because you were working for your dad and he was going to make sure that so
There was
so
no nepotism perception available.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. But we're not your typical media within the space that these companies are usually interacting with to try to advertise or sell their wares. We're more aligned with their actual end user, their customer base. And so we're asking questions from a much different perspective, because we're asking genuine questions that we're hoping our listeners or watchers want to know themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that's been a big differentiating factor, I think, for our podcast compared to the other ones that go to the trade shows and cover. And I'm not trying to talk down on what they do either, because there's enough food on the table for everyone.
Absolutely.
And those companies need to be able to have, advertising makes the world go round. Yeah, nothing to say negative about that. I'm just happy that we've found a space where we can operate and offer something different.
Yeah.
What else is out?
And that genuineness comes through again, right? That's something that anybody who's watched one of your episodes, and if you haven't, or listened to your episodes, if you haven't listened to a Decode podcast episode, after you're done with this, of course, go listen to one of Daniel's episodes. They're great. Daniel, one thing, and I might delete this out, but you talk about generating revenue through, right? I get a lot of pitches from PR companies and things of that nature. What I tell people when they reach out from a PR company and they have a list of questions that they suggest I ask, right? My response is, I don't script questions. I don't write questions ahead of time. This is an authentic conversation between two people who care about this industry. If you want me to script out and use the questions you're providing, it will cost you money. And I charge them money for those conversations, right?
Sure.
So just what I found is the little hack that can help fund a new microphone or something like that.
Yeah.
If you want to go that direction.
Yeah, that's the balance, because, obviously the goal is growth, and growth kind of takes money. But if we're trying to stay non-commercial, like, how do you do it? It's a fine balance you have to figure out, and we're always trying to figure out what that balance is. But
Yep.
I think as long as our North Compass just needs to be to keep having fun, because I think that's like, I genuinely love my buddies that I do that with, and I hope they never hear that. But we have
I'm
such
gonna
a good
clip
time.
that, and that'll be the promo. That'll be the promo clip for this episode.
But so I think as long as that stays the case, that we'll be fine, whether we're charging, whether we're not. Like, as long as we're still having fun, I think everything will be where it needs to.
Absolutely, man. So what is one of the biggest like insights or lessons you've learned from one of your guests as you've been running that podcast?
I mean, some of it is so hyper niche and focused on what I do, because I mean, I've learned some really key, like, little process tricks and stuff from people we've talked to. But also, I think one of the most refreshing things is when, like, our guest tells us that we're doing the right thing, like that we keep doing it. That when you hear from somebody who's actually listening and watching, that they enjoy it and that they are learning from it, then it kind of keeps you going. But it's not really what you asked.
No, but I'll take it. There are no wrong answers on the Manufacturing Culture podcast, man.
It's a good one to be on then.
Yeah, there are zero wrong answers on this show. If it's your answer, that's your answer. And that's, and I tend to agree. Like, I don't know if I've learned a whole lot. I mean, I learned a shit ton today from you about the process of PCB boards, right? But I think at the same time, my biggest joy, my biggest takeaway is when people come up to me and they're like, hey, I learned something from your guest, or I changed the way that I ran a meeting because of what your guest did on the show, or your guest validated the way that I feel about why I got into this trade or why I stayed in this trade or whatever the case may be. That to me is the warmest feeling I get.
That's another reason why I think we're doing okay, is because we don't have a problem learning on camera. We don't need to posture ourselves as having already gained 100% of knowledge in the industry. There's certainly still things, even if my buddy, like, I'm only, in it for about 5 years now. My buddies who grew up in it, they got decades in the industry, but yet they are still willing to have a vulnerable conversation on camera about, like, wait, how you do something this way, and being willing to admit you don't know something. I think that's been one of the feedbacks we get to, with different guests also, is just that our willingness to show that we don't know all the answers yet kind of makes people feel safe with you.
Yeah, I get that. Completely agree. So for somebody who's interested in joining the industry, where can they start? How can they get started in this industry? Is there an apprenticeship program? How can somebody out of high school or even a mid-career change individual come into the electronics manufacturing world?
It's a good question. I mean, it's kind of that's what all the different related organizations and associations are trying to figure out, right? How do we get more people doing this? Because we need more people doing it. And so I'm sure it's not unique to electronics that a lot of the industry knowledge is close to retirement. The show that we last saw each other at, that assembly SMTA show, the year prior was my first year going to it. I was 38, and I was treated like I was fresh out of college comparatively to everyone else. Like, me and my buddies we're considered like young for the industry, and we're like, old men, it feels like. So it's like, if we're considered young, really, how do you attract more people into the industry? So we're trying to get involved, and so is the SMTA. They work with this EMAC Association, Electronics Manufacturing, EMAC. You have to forgive me, I don't remember. But the EMAC works with colleges to try to get students to participate and help kind of foster that development. And apprenticeships, IPC recently rebranded as the GEA, the Global Electronics Association, but they still, all of the standards and certifications that they carry are still called IPC. So they'll have to forgive me. I don't remember whether it's the GEA name or the IPC name that runs it, but they have an apprenticeship program now. And so companies that, and they're awesome about it. Like, they will do all of the legwork for you to figure out if your state has any grants or assistance available towards that type of training. If, just like literally anything they can do to help, they will. And if your company is willing to sponsor, be a part of one of these apprenticeship programs, then the outline is already there. And that's for somebody who wants to get into the board design. That's for if you want to be a qualified technician doing this kind of work. If you want to, like, they have a few different little avenues you can take the apprenticeship that are all relevant to the industry. And there are plenty of companies that I'm sure are looking for young, excited, interested people to put through these type of programs. So I know there's opportunity there if people are willing to seek it out.
Awesome. What's the future of manufacturing look like in Daniel's head?
Manufacturing in general?
Let's do your world.
I think realistically there will still be some shrinking of the industry. I think the people who offer good service and focus on the right things will still be able to rise to the top. Like, I don't think it's ever all going away. I think certainly what Aurora Boardworks is trying to do, but we're not unique in this. I'm sure there's other companies doing the same thing, that you try to recognize that price isn't going to be, that's just, you're not ever going to win just trying to offer everyone the lowest price all the time. So you just have to figure out how to be good at the other things, be good at communication, be good at doing what you say you're going to do, give people a realistic outlook, shoot it straight, do your best. And I think people, anytime they've had enough pain trying it a different way, money, if you start out with money being the overriding determiner, like at some point you're going to suffer for that being your all important metric. So as soon as enough people have had enough pain trying to do it the cheapest route, then they come back to places like ours and willing to pay a little bit more to have something that they don't have to worry about. Yeah. So I think that'll still be there. I think maybe one of our best new clients is only like an hour drive from here, and we're in the middle of Nebraska. So I think if other places are willing to entertain that, you might be surprised what's available in your local area. And if they were paying less before, but I know they're happy to be able to drive up here and communicate, or vice versa. If there's any type of issue, we're right here. We'll be able to fix it. So.
I love it. Daniel, what haven't I asked you?
And you can cut any of that if it's too pitchy. I didn't mean to turn into...
No, fuck no. I again, no wrong answers on the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm keeping this all in, man. I hate fucking editing. Okay. So it's all in here.
Perfect.
Last question I ask all of my guests. What haven't I asked you that you want to share with the audience?
I mean, you've done a good job. I guess what the podcast is probably where the most current excitement is for me moving forward right now. But I mean, always something. But I mean, we talked about it too. So I don't know that it's anything you didn't ask me, but we're going to be able to be at more shows this year, doing more things. And that's just so much fun to be able to do that.
100%. What shows are on your docket for this year? Where can people find you show-wise?
So we'll be at Apex again in Anaheim doing big events, big interviews there. And we'll be at, it's called STAR. It's a strategic technology advance something. Anyway, STARS in Kansas City. That's a really cool annual thing. We're going to try to go to some of the Printed Circuit Engineering Association shows this year. Yeah, like
That's awesome.
There's more opportunity than there is availability. Like a couple months ago, we had somebody offering to pay our way to go to Productronica in Germany last
Wow.
November, but it only started, the opportunity only started to become available like weeks before the event. It's like we can't, like it's Germany, and we all like none of us were planning on it. We can't just like, oh, let's just go spend a week in Germany next
Right?
month or whatever. It was unbelievably flattering that the offer was even extended. So, and we've got a few things that are like that I'm just not quite comfortable talking about because they're not fully inked yet, but yeah, there's a lot in the works. We're excited.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations. I love this. Thank you so much for being part of my journey, the show's journey, and coming on and being so open and vulnerable and sharing your story, but also sharing a little bit about what Aurora Boardworks does. Thanks for being on.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a massive part of this journey. Not that you're any more a part than Daniel, but you're here every week, some of you. So thanks for being here every week. Again, if you enjoy this show, check out our other shows, Work But Make It Human, Industrial Storytellers, or the YouTube channel, The Manufacturing Connector. We've got a show for anybody. I don't care who you are. We've got a show for it. If you like this show, this episode, again, rate and review on whatever platform you're on. Say Daniel Stanphill and Decode Rock in the comments. I don't care what you say in the review. You don't have to talk about me at all. Talk about Daniel. Again, it's not for me. It's so other people see the show, because every time you rate and review, somebody else then finds the show, and hopefully these shows are still doing what they're intended to. So until next time, keep making things. Thanks for being here. Have a great day.